Hello and welcome everyone again into another video. And today's video we're going to talk about Scroll Cup. But before that, let me apologize for not posting any video recently because I moved into another place, into another province in fact. So it took me like 3 weeks to sort things out. I get my PC literally 2 days ago. Today I get the table, I get the internet, so I finally can make a content again. And the first video we're going to talk about is the Scroll Cup Great League Edition. In fact, it's one of the best cups that they ever made. Now, people will say that, oh, this cup is so RPS because they will be triple weak to electric and then one Morpeko will run over their entire team. So don't be weak to Morpeko. That's like the main thing in this cup. So what's Scroll Cup? Pokemon must be, it's 1500, so it's a Great League format. Only water, fighting, and dark type. And that's the icon of the cup, as you can see. Any Pokemon that is eligible, it must be one of these three typings. So would Keldeo be eligible? Yeah, if you can get one below 1500, yeah, you can definitely fit that into Great League. Annihilate, Toxapex, Mandibuzz, these are going to be like actually everywhere in this cup. So what are the main things in this cup? Leads, safe swap, generalists. I think those have a kind of a play in this cup, but I would say this cup is like mainly three Pokemons. We're talking about Toxapex, Mandibuzz, Azu, and Kingdra, and Annihilate. Those are going to be the main three Pokemons. But yes, you just said five, dude. Who is counting nowadays? Okay, so in the lead, I like some Pokemons more than others, and I'm specifically talking about Morpeko here, Annihilate, and Guzzlord. Why do I like those? Because if you get a good lead with those three Pokemons, you could literally RPS, just do shield, play out. You know, the game where like you keep shielding and you just force your opponent to shield with some spammy Pokemons. The safe swaps, I mean, the king of the safe swap in this cup. You could say Azu, you could also say Quagsire. Those two specifically are actually the best swaps in this cup. I don't think anything is as good as those. But let's not forget that Toxapex is number one, so please don't be weak to Toxapex. So that makes Quagsire the number one Pokemon in this cup. So if you take a look at PvP, there is Toxapex, Mandibuzz, Mantine. All these three lose to one Pokemon, which is Pawmot and Morpeko. Pawmot, I think it's a fighting electric, so it has Thunder Shock and Wild Charge, and I don't know what's that fighting move. We will talk about it later in the video. The fighting move is not the best, but it has a fighting move, right? And then in the dark type, we have Hydreigon, Morcrow's Wireless. Now, Morcrow is just so frail. I don't think it can fight in this cup. Plus, it's weak to, it doesn't beat Toxapex, and it's so weak and so vulnerable to Morpeko. And that leaves us with Kingdra. Kingdra is going to be a nasty Pokemon in this cup, so again, don't be weak to Kingdra. Annihilate, Araquanid. I think Araquanid might end up being the best Pokemon in this cup, but again, it's weak to number one Pokemon, which is Toxapex. Now, the matchup into Mandibuzz is in the woods. It's actually playable. And then you have a Lantern right there, and Lantern is actually a good Pokemon, but it's a bad it has bad fast moves, so keep that in mind. But I think they recently buffed Mantine, and Mantine isn't as horrible. Guzzlord is a decent Pokemon. I don't know about Whiscash. I kind of prefer Quagsire more. What about this guy, Spiritomb? I think it's kind of a good Pokemon, but also it needs an energy lead. If you get energy lead, it's a good Pokemon. If you don't, it's kind of a bad Pokemon because I don't think it has any cheap move. Wait, does it have a cheap move nowadays? I mean, since it's not in the top 14, I don't think it's a good Pokemon. Now remember that Sableye no longer runs Return. You actually run Shadow Claw and the Drain Punch and Dazzling Gleam. This is the charge moves. This is the moveset you run on Sableye. As far as Chestnut, I've never used it in this cup, but I've definitely played against it because you guys know how much I love playing Shadow Quag, and my Shadow Quag sometimes didn't always. Wow, what in English, Yasser. Okay, thank you so much, guys, for noticing that. Okay, enough yapping about Pokemon. Just talk about the top teams, and I think Toxapex is actually one of the safest. I mean, it's number one Pokemon for a reason, right? But if I have to mention 3 Pokemons that are good in this cup, I'm gonna say Annihilape, Primeape, and Morpeko. Morpeko is just a nasty Pokemon in this cup. It's only weak to ground, so that's why you have to have things that can deal with the ground types, things like Kingdra, things like Annihilape, and Primeape. Those are actually very safe to use. Do we have a fairy type? Don't we have a fairy type in this cup? I think a Primarina is a fairy type, but is it actually going to be usable? Well, remember that the strongest Pokemon in this cup is Toxapex, okay? And there are so many electric type Pokemons. So, I mean, some of those electric are weak to charm, yes, but if those electric Pokemons have energy lead, they will run like they will have a nasty run. The second strongest Pokemon is Mandibuzz, and to run Mandibuzz, remember you need to deal with the Ice type Pokemons. Usually Ice type Pokemons are water, so you need an electric type. Well, I don't think so. It's more like electric makes a good pairing with flying, because electric is weak to ground and Mandibuzz is the best counter to ground type in this cup. So that's why there is an electric type, because they just make a great duo. Now, do you run Morpeko or Pawmot? I think both are just very frail, so it's kind of a personal choice to run Pawmot or Morpeko. I myself are going to run Morpeko, but guys, you do not run Psychic Fang on Morpeko. You run Seed Bomb, okay? And just in this cup, you run Seed Bomb. Why? Because with Seed Bomb, you can beat Quagsire. Quagsire is no longer a counter. And then the third, you could do Sable Guy, you could do Toxapex, you could even go with something like Mantine. But I just don't want to be extremely vulnerable to electric, so Sable Guy is actually a good choice. And remember, Sable Guy destroys something like Annihilape, right? And Gastro is just a mud slap, and I don't think it's even the best ground type. I think Quag is just a straight upgrade. Now, moving into the third best Pokemon, which is Mantine. If I would run Mantine, I would actually pair it with Guzzlord. Why? I don't know. I just like them together. So what did they buff about Mantine? They gave it Twister, so now you run Twister over Ice Beam. You no longer need Ice Beam. Now Mantine is not the greatest against Azu, so you kind of need something that deals with Azu. That's why I like something like Pawmot. Pawmot is actually gonna run a field against Azu, because these bubbles are not gonna add up. Yeah, Pawmot is frail, but Azu just doesn't have a fast move pressure. But that doesn't make you good into Quag, because Quag has Stone Edge for Mantine and destroys Pawmot because of the mud shots, and this thing is very frail, so you need a Quag yourself or a Quag answer. You could just run Quag. I remember last time people actually were running something like Ludicolo or anything grass in this cup, just because grass is just good into electric, it's good into Quag, and even if they have something like Mantine, you could still hurt it with Frenzy Plant or like Leaf Storm. Okay. Next Pokemon is going to be Morpeko. So as I said, Morpeko makes a great pairing with the Flyheads, because Morpeko is weak to ground, is weak to grass. Flyheads are good into those, so that's why they make great core. Now Flamingo is a Pokemon that I don't have. I don't know what evolves into Flamingo. I don't think I was playing when the Flamingo was released. I will try myself to get one. Hopefully it's not a regional. Now someone's like, how can you get it if it doesn't spawn in your regional? I literally don't know where it spawns or when does it spawn, okay? Wait, I hear the ambulance. Can you guys hear it? Okay, you guys can't hear it because I have a good filter on my mic. So yeah, 2 triple dark. It's actually a strategy that does work. Just don't run into a fairy type. But what team would I run? I think I will be running Kingdra with Annihilape. And the third, I'm still debating whether it's a Mantine or it's a Mandibuzz. Which one? I have no idea, but I feel like it could be just Azu, just to deal with the Azu that I could face. Other than that, I'm still thinking about my third, but it's going to be Kingdra with Annihilape. Now remember, don't use Shadow Annihilape, because we're not using the counter version. We are using Low Kick, and Low Kick is a Vine Whip clone, which means we need to spam charged moves, so it's going to be Low Kick, Rage Fist, then double close combat. That's an ideal scenario. Now number 7 Pokemon is going to be Hydreigon. Just like any other Dark type, you need a Poison type with Dark, and as a third, Well, something to mention, Hydreigon is a shadow, okay? And it's so frail. So the best way to use it is to pair it with the tankiest two Pokemons in the entire league, which by some chance, are Toxapex and Azumarill. Okay, that's literally just a chance. As far as Morpeko, again, Pawmot and Iolab, you could replace either of those two with Quag. I actually would love to use this team, but I don't think it's going to win me any game because this is very frail. This is an average bulk Pokemon. Speaking of a tanky Pokemon, Araquanid is very solid in this cup. I feel like you kinda need a Quag. I mean, PvP suggested to use Castro. I don't agree with that because that's just gonna make the team weak to things like Mantine and Mandibuzz. At least Quag has a Stone Edge. Whenever you throw the Stone Edge, if it lands, good. If it doesn't land, well, at least you grab a shield. Now, something to mention, Gallade is actually usable in this cup, and it's good. Remember that they buffed Psycho Cut. Now Psycho Cut is a Fairy Wind clone. So, in things like Morpeko, I think it's good. Against things like Azu, it's also good. Against things like Mandibuzz, you can just close combat and dip. And then you can pair it with Mandibuzz itself, or Quagsire, or even Toxapex. So I try to keep it as short and straightforward as possible. If you guys like this content, make sure to leave a like to the video. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. We'll catch you on the next video. Peace.